Okay, for many people with thyroid disease, weight gain is one of the biggest battles they fight day in and day out. And for this reason, many of those who suffer with hypothyroidism, they start to wonder about diets like carnivore and keto or ketogenic diets. And maybe you stumbled on this video and you're thinking about trying a high-fat, low-carb diet like keto or carnivore for the purpose of improving your health, improving your thyroid, or losing weight. But you're not quite sure, and you have a lot of questions. And so to be honest, there's a lot of doctors, nutritionists, and health influencers that are out there that have really jumped on this keto bandwagon and are 100% committed to drinking every ounce of the keto Kool-Aid. And so now you're wondering if keto carnivore diet is right for you, right? Is keto good for you when you have thyroid problems? Will it hurt your thyroid? Well, in this day and age, everything we know about the importance of the gut and gut health and the microbiome and leaky gut, you may also be wondering if keto or carnivore will hurt your gut or your gut microbiome. And I think these are all great questions and are questions many of my patients ask me every single day. Well, if you've just started wondering about these, stay tuned, because in today's video, I'm going to go over why I'm not a fan of ketogenic diets when it comes to gut health and why I don't recommend keto or carnivore diets for my patients with Hashimoto's disease or for my patients with Graves' disease or for my patients with hypothyroidism, especially when I know that there is an issue with a leaky gut or low T3 or intestinal dysbiosis. Hey there, I'm Dr. Hagmeyer, and I hope I got your attention and I piqued your interest. I've spent close to 20 hours looking at study after study looking into this topic, but also comparing what I've seen clinically, in clinical testing that I run in my clinic, and how that aligns with various studies that I've come across. If you have thyroid problems or you've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, you may have heard how important it is to maintain a healthy gut microbiome, especially when you have thyroid disease, or why a leaky gut is a big deal if you have an autoimmune disease like Graves' or Hashimoto's or lupus or MS or celiac or rheumatoid arthritis. Well, it shouldn't come as any surprise that your gut microbiome is heavily influenced by not only what you eat, but also by what you don't eat and what you restrict. After all, what we eat or don't eat is either hurting our microbiome or helping our microbiome. So when it comes to keto and carnivore diets, high fat, low fiber, we really need to know what the consequences are going to be. One little known role of the gut bacteria that make up our microbiome is to assist in converting inactive T4 thyroid hormone into the active form of thyroid hormone known as T3. Now, when you take thyroid medication, you're taking man-made synthetic T4. What your body then needs to do is it takes that T4, converts it into another hormone called T3. This process of T4 to T3 is known as conversion. And when you're a bad converter, the end result is low T3 and often elevated levels of reverse T3, both of which have terrible consequences on your health. Now, a healthy gut could be the difference in how your thyroid functions, because studies indicate that about 20% of your T4 gets converted to T3 in the GI tract, and things like leaky gut, intestinal dysbiosis, infections, and yes, high-fat, low-carb diets like keto are more intertwined than you may think. Now, if you've been watching this video series, it's probably quite clear that T3 thyroid hormones are incredibly important. Well, it turns out that T3 thyroid hormone also influences your gut barrier. In other words, if you have low T3 levels, you can also go on to develop a leaky gut. And that's what I want to spend some time specifically talking about today: the link between ketogenic diets and leaky gut. Now, the purpose of a keto diet, of course, is to get your body to run off fat rather than sugar. Glucose or sugar is one of the primary fuel sources that your brain runs on. You can trick your brain to use fats as primary fuel source, but many experts don't believe that this is good long term. You see, it turns out that parts of your brain that regulate thyroid hormones, like the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, they need glucose in order to function. They need carbohydrates. And when you aggressively restrict these carbohydrates, you reduce glucose availability, and this in turn reduces the amount of T3 being produced. This has been studied over and over again, not Dr. Hagmeyer's discovery, but studies also show that high-fat diets impact the way T4 is converted into T3, leaving you with low T3 levels. And as a reminder, like I mentioned a moment ago, T3 levels are needed to maintain structural and permeability as far as the gut goes. So why is the leaky gut so important? Why does everyone in healthcare seem to be talking about it? Well, inside our gut, we have an extensive intestinal lining covering more than 4,000 square feet of surface area. Think about that in relationship to a home. Now, when working properly, the intestinal lining forms a nice, tight, secure barrier that controls what gets into the bloodstream and what doesn't. This is really important when it comes to things like autoimmune diseases, because when certain things get into the bloodstream that don't belong there, our immune system springs into action. We get a lot of inflammation and we get a lot of immune system recruitment. On the other hand, an unhealthy dysbiotic gut or leaky gut caused by too much fat and not enough carbs, like keto and carnivore, also cause oxidative stress to that gut lining. Now, oxidative stress allows free radicals to damage tissues all throughout our body. Oxidative stress in the world of functional medicine is really a root cause of every single disease. Damaged intestinal lining caused by oxidative stress allows gaps to develop and holes to develop in the intestinal lining, where all kinds of things like toxins in the environment, heavy metals, endotoxins, and things like LPS enter the bloodstream. In fact, studies are now looking into the role that leaky gut may have in cancer, and it makes perfect sense. What we also know is that what we eat and what we don't eat heavily influences the kinds of bacteria that inhabit our gut microbiome. Diets high in fat and high in proteins and very low carbs not only create a state of gut dysbiosis and oxidative stress, but they also cause leaky gut, both of which impact thyroid function and immune function. Now, when enough oxidative stress damages the tissues and the gut, it becomes leaky and the defense system is down. The gut barrier, that wall of protection, has been breached. And now we have entry of LPS bacterial toxins into our bloodstream. LPS toxins are a really important connection between gut health, thyroid health, and gut thyroid autoimmunity. LPS toxins are a very important piece of autoimmunity and of thyroid disease for a number of reasons. LPS toxins prevent thyroid hormone production by altering the way sodium and iodide transporters allow iodide to get into thyroid cells, as well as sodium into the follicular cells, which again is the first step in how thyroid hormone is produced. So LPS toxins block or reduce the production of T3 and T4 thyroid hormone levels. They blunt the sensitivity of thyroid hormone receptor sites so that thyroid hormones don't bind to the intended receptor. This leaves you again in a hypothyroid state. LPS toxins increase the amounts of reverse T3, which can cause thyroid resistance. LPS toxins decrease TSH levels. LPS promote autoimmune thyroid disease, but that's not all. Once LPS enters the bloodstream, they activate a variety of pro-inflammatory cytokines. In other words, they fire up your immune system, causing chronic inflammation that's been called metabolic endotoxemia. Now, leaky gut causes intestinal villi, those little finger-like projections that you see here, to shorten. And these intestinal villi is where critical nutrients are absorbed that results in deficiency like iodine, selenium, magnesium, vitamin A, vitamin D, which again are all vital for thyroid function and immune function. So what does that mean to you as a person who has thyroid disease or Hashimoto's? Well, it should be obvious that the goal when it comes to treating and unraveling chronic condition is to address the root cause. And that means we have to obviously look at the bigger picture of things. Research is becoming increasingly clear that high-fat, low-carb, ketogenic diets and carnivore diets shift our microbiome in such a way that they promote inflammation in the gut. They promote oxidative stress. And of course, they cause problems with the integrity of our gut barrier, aka leaky gut. So in addition to my past videos, today's video and the information that I went over with you might be one more reason you don't want to go on a high-fat, low-carb, low-fiber diet like keto or carnivore if you have thyroid disease or an autoimmune disease like Hashimoto's, Graves', or any of the other ones I mentioned. Okay, well there you go. That's going to wrap up today's video on leaky gut and high-fat, low-carb diets and the effect that keto and carnivore have on the gut. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer those for you. If you're interested in working with my clinic, you can reach out to me by visiting my website. The other thing is I have a free thyroid guide that if you visit my website, you can download that by clicking on that free guide section. And lastly, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I recommend that you also watch the next video in this series right here next.